So we have to move further in our story. So after this process, there was quite a change in Krishnamurti's approach and the way he would talk about these things. I mean, till the process, he was preparing for the coming of the world teacher. Then he was the head of that organization, Order of the Star in the East, and all the members of that organization, they were trying to prepare themselves so that when the world teacher comes, they will be able to receive him. And that kind of approach was prevalent till the process. But after the process, there was a change. The change was that Krishnamurti began to think for himself. He started exploring, he started questioning, he wanted to understand what is happening, why is it happening, and lots of questions about human life and so on. So it was an exploration triggered in him, and through that he was trying to come to some understanding of human life. But still, in the background was the world teacher. That means how one can prepare oneself so that when the world teacher comes and he gives his teaching, then we are able to receive those teachings and not react against it. And what was said was that the world teacher would give teachings which will be radically different than whatever one has been following or whatever one has been thinking. It will be totally different. But what exactly it will be, nobody was able to say. And that is, expected, because how can anyone say what the world teacher is going to teach? If he is able to tell it, that means he is higher than the world teacher. And the world teacher then will tell or teach according to what he has predicted. So that prediction was not possible. So even persons like CWL, they said that the teaching will be completely radical, completely new. What it will be can't be said, but we have to be prepared to receive that teaching. So that was all that was said about that. Then other question that arises is that why did he leave Theosophical Society? But he did not leave Theosophical Society. The Theosophical Society terminated his membership on the grounds, whatever their grounds or whatever it is, because in the Theosophical archives I saw a letter in which they had taken a decision to terminate his membership of Theosophical Society for whatever reasons mentioned there. And so he did not discard the society discarded him. But in any case, the logical understanding is, should the world teacher give his teaching within the framework of Theosophical Society? Which means that Theosophical Society is much higher than the world teacher. He has to follow their framework. So again, that doesn't fit. So naturally, he had to give his teachings completely independently, without relying on anything, without seeking support from any scriptures, from any authority, from any source, from any idea, nothing. Completely standing alone on his own and just talk about the truth of the matter. What is the truth? And that's all. So, that was the kind of teaching that was to come through him. So, naturally all the paraphernalia, all the structures, he had to move out of that. Otherwise, they could have become hindrances in his expression. So, naturally he did that. Of course, the last structure was when he dissolved that order of the star, but that we will be talking about tomorrow. But today we will be considering the period after the process and before the dissolution of the order of the star. So, that period we are going to consider. There are various interesting things. One of the most important events that happened during that period was death of Krishnamurti's brother Nityananda. Now, Nityananda was his younger brother, and right from childhood they were greatly attached to each other. In fact, when Annie Besant proposed to adopt Krishnamurti as her child and then educate him and prepare him for the role of the world teacher, Krishnamurti simply refused to go with her unless she took Nitya also with him. So, she had to adopt both of them. So, she adopted Krishnamurti and his younger brother Nityananda also, and both of them together they were groomed. Now, Nitya was much brighter looking, much more intellectually responsive. So, he got good education, he graduated and all those things, but Krishnamurti didn't pass any exam. And he couldn't get admission to any of those universities. The Oxford did not accept him, the Cambridge did not accept him, saying that our universities are not capable of educating a Messiah. So, they didn't admit him. So, he had to be taught privately through private tutors and teachers. His education was taken care of, but he didn't have any formal degree, he never passed any exam and so on. So, Nityananda, he was greatly attached, and it was his belief that when the world teacher comes, Krishnamurti will be mostly busy with the work of the world teacher, but the organizational work, the administrative work, Nityananda will take over and he will do that. So, Nityananda's role in the work of the world teacher was visualized as very supportive by Krishnamurti, and he was so firm in his belief that that is what will happen. But what happened was that Nityananda started suffering from respiratory disorders. They called it as consumption or something, and he used to cough a lot and all those things, and quite seriously ill. And so somebody suggested that why not he go to Ohio and stay there, and whether there he will feel much better. So all this thing happened much before the process. I mean, I'm talking about the pre-process, this thing. And so they went to Ohio Valley and started staying there, and because of the unique weather or climate of California, he started getting healed, and then there was some kind of treatment, magnetotherapy or electrotherapy some person was giving, and that also helped Nitya and so on. And he felt better, and then Krishnamurti was convinced that yes, Nitya will be all right, and he will fulfill his role in the work of the world teacher. But this sickness was never completely healed. I mean, the Nitya kept on falling ill intermittently. Sometimes he will feel better, and one will feel that yes, now he is cured, but then after a while he may again start suffering and so on. So Krishnamurti was really worried. about his health. So in 1924, when the International Theosophical Convention was taking place at Adyar, and Krishnamurti was required to go for that, he was very reluctant to go. He was worried about Nitya's health and all these things. But somehow people were able to convince him, and by the time his date of departure arrived, Nitya had started feeling much better, and so Krishnamurti started his journey. So he traveled in a ship. That time there was no aeroplane. And so he had a belief that since Nitya has a role in the work of the world teacher, he will not die. He will survive, and masters will see to it that he doesn't die. So that was his conviction, Krishnamurti's. And so he started his journey, and as his ship was passing through Suez Canal, a telegram was received announcing Nityananda's death. That was a great shock. In fact, that time Shivarao, Krishnamurti and Rajgopal, they were sharing a cabin on the ship. They were traveling together. And Krishnamurti was completely heartbroken. He used to wake up in the midnight shouting and crying for Nitya and all these things. And not only that, but if somebody opens the door of the cabin and enters the room, so even with that disturbance, his sleep would be disturbed and he will cry out and so on. So it was a very, very difficult time for him. And it is said that it took 10 days for him to come out of that grief. But as the ship reached Indian shores, he had completely come out of that. And when he arrived at Adyar for Theosophical Convention, when he met CWL, the immediate comment of CWL was, "So you are at least an arhat now." Quite an interesting comment. So what is this? I mean, what is this relationship between being arhat and whatever Krishnamurti had gone through? You see, when the human potential has to unfold and human being has to stand on his own strength, not dependent on anybody or anything, right? Then that is the real unfoldment. And if he has to depend on this or that, or even if he has to depend on masters, then he is not standing on his own strength. And then one cannot say that such a human being has unfolded himself completely, because he still needs support. He still has to depend. And so they say that before you get this arhat initiation, a test is done to find out whether you are able to stand alone on your own strength without depending on anybody. And that test is carried out by snatching that to which you are closely attached, which is the most important thing for you in your life, that is taken away from you. And so the kind of grief, the kind of situation you go through, a tremendous loneliness, a tremendous feeling of being unrelated with anything, and whatever you had been considering as significant, as important, as real, and all those things, all that is taken away. And then you have to stand alone. So they say that many candidates, they fail this test. They break down at such point. So then they fall back, then maybe again they have to work much more on themselves. But those who come out of that test without failing, then they have already become the next initiate, which is the Arhat. So that state of ultimate loneliness, yeah, I think the mic is working, so I'll keep on talking. So in theosophical terminology, that state is called as avicii. So avicii is the state of ultimate loneliness. You feel totally unrelated. You don't find anything to which you can hold on to. You have to stand on your own strength. And if you are able to do that, then you qualify for that Arhat initiation. So it seems this incident or event of death of Krishnamurti's brother was such a test, and it shook even his faith in the masters, because even that didn't help, even that didn't save Nitya's life. And so maybe whether because of that he was saying there are no masters. So that is one of the important events in his life. And then after that, of course, he, with all that gone, he was now totally free to focus completely on the work of the world teacher. And so he started working with people. So some people who were tremendously interested and wanted to be part of the work of the world teacher. So with them he started self-preparation groups, and he used to regularly meet them at least once a year at Oman in Holland and hold dialogues with them. And that he continued for several years. And a book is made out of those dialogues and published. That's the Kingdom of Happiness. So in that, all these, some of or many of these dialogues are published, and you can read what exactly he said to the members of that self-preparation group. And it was all in preparation for receiving the world teacher. So there are lots of suggestions given in those dialogues as to what you are supposed to do in your day-to-day life situations, and how you can prepare yourself, what are the things you need to change in yourself, what are the things you have to discard or drop from yourself, what are the things which you should try to imbibe in yourself, and so on. So all those instructions, I mean, those who want definite instructions from Krishnamurti, they can read that book and get those instructions. And lot of books were written. He wrote poems during that period, and they were published in several books like, say, Come Away, The Search, The Immortal Friend, and so many different prose poetry. He wrote many little stories in the form of parables. So the story will have some moral, some truth to take away. Those stories also were written during that period. And this writing of poems was right after the process. These poems started coming from him. Now the interesting thing is, when Krishnamurti wrote poems or anything, you will find a very uniform handwriting without any cancellation, no cancellation at all. That means he was very clear in his mind what he wanted to write, and there was no question of changing it later. So pages after pages, you won't see any cancellation in that. And with uniform handwriting, he wrote it. But when his brother died and he wrote the poems during that period, you will see a lot of cancellations in his writing. So he cancelled a word, replaced it with some other word, and like that. So maybe that is an indication of the state of mind he was going through. And so both these manuscripts are available in the archives, and one can see the difference in these two. And all these works, they are published in the book called The Poems and Parables. The other title of the same book is From Darkness to Light. The only book that is not published in Poems and Parables is The Kingdom of Happiness. But The Kingdom of Happiness is available on the net. You can just download and read if you are interested. So I think probably that's all that is there to be said during that period. But the important thing was, Krishnamurti was already shifting away from the theosophical knowledge or theosophical approach, and he was trying to come out with his own approach about the things. And based on that, he was holding dialogues with these various groups. And then, of course, we come to that 1929 this thing, and by that time the kind of situation that developed. I mean, we'll discuss that tomorrow when we talk about the dissolution of the Order of the Star, why he needed to dissolve it, and so on. So maybe I think you can now ask questions on this.
Sir, regarding being alone and at the time falling apart,
Yes.
important things are taken away.
Yes.
And then like Peter said that now we have become Arahant. The mandatory is going to happen to people who are going to Arahant.
Yeah, it looks like.
The most important between Nityananda and Krishnamurti. So important first is Nityananda. So the existence taken away from him. Mandatory has to be happen in life.
I mean, one has to go through that kind of experience before he is. You can regard that's a kind of test the nature takes because in nature you can't cheat. I mean, you can't say you don't have the qualification to be arhat and yet you become arhat. That kind of cheating is not possible in nature. So whatever is necessary, all that is ensured by the laws of nature. It's not that there is somebody who is ensuring it. No, it's not like that. I mean, to give you an example, right? Now, the first initiation, unless you are fully functional in your astral body and are able to bring back the memory of your astral work into the physical brain, you are not considered as ready for the first initiation. Now you may say, but still if I somehow manage to get first initiation, then what? You cannot manage to get first initiation because the first initiation takes place in the astral plane, in the astral world. And if you are not capable of functioning in the astral world, you can't be present for that initiation. So it's simply not possible to get that initiation unless you are fully ready. So it is that kind of thing. It is not that there is somebody sitting there and judging you whether you are ready or not ready, and then based on his judgment, the initiation is given to you. No, it's not like that. The arrangement in nature itself is such that unless you are really at that point, you won't get whatever you can get from that. So initiations are the natural phenomena. They are happening naturally. It's not that, it's not a reward for having lived rightly, but it is just a growth. A human being is growing, and if he has sufficiently grown, then he qualifies for that. And with that first initiation, then you are among the people who are then able to think together, able to work together, and so on. Same with the mental plane also. When you are fully functional at the mental level, then you are ready for the second initiation. Because that second initiation takes place in the mental plane. And unless you are fully functional in the mental plane, you can't have that initiation because you are simply not possible for you to be present there.
Krishnamurti took 10 days only.
Yeah.
After 10 days, he never recalled his.
No,
he never
nothing.
gone into
Nothing.
grief or depression.
No, nothing.
But how that?
In fact,
how he overcome that
yeah.
situation?
No, he went through it. He did not resist. He did not look for any support. He did not blame anything or anybody for that. I mean, he completely faced it. See, otherwise, normally, when a person is in such grief, he is seeking some support from somebody, some consolation, some rationalization, or through rationalization, he may try to rationalize and come out of that, or he may try to escape from it through various means. In the film, they show that suddenly he starts drinking. So through drinks he is trying to escape. So he did not seek any escape. He did not try to run away from his whatever his state of mind. He did not seek any support from anybody. He was completely with himself, with that grief, and that's all.
But he took help of crying, sir.
Help of crying. Oh, body was crying.
He cried. So
Yeah, he cried.
help from through emotional support.
No. If I cry by myself, whose support I am taking in that? Suppose I am sitting in my room and suddenly I am in a state where I remember some past event of great sorrow, great grief, and I start suffering. and I start crying. So when I am crying, what kind of support I am taking? Yeah, you can shout, you can cry.
Why we should not cry, sir?
Yeah. No. What he is saying is, in the form of crying, you have taken support. So you have not stood alone on your own strength because you cried. That's what he is trying to say.
I don't think one plans to cry.
Pardon?
One doesn't go into crying keeping a plan that okay, I'll cry and I'll.
Yeah. No.
There is continuous.
Yeah. The crying happens in the sense when you are in great grief, that grief is expressed in various ways through the body, through the mind, through other things. And when it is expressed, do you say that you have taken support of that expression?
When the body is lively,
Yeah.
crying is also one of the part of it.
Yes.
So there is nothing wrong in it.
Yeah. It's. Yeah.
Nothing wrong in it.
So I am asking that the question is different.
Yeah. See, when Krishnaji was sick or ill with cancer, and he was living in Ohio, Pine Cottage, and there people coming, meeting him, and his close ones also meeting him and being with him, they found that suddenly Krishnamurti would start crying. They thought that he was crying out of pain of that cancer. He had cancer of pancreas, and it was very painful. To overcome the pain, he had to be given morphine. So they thought that if he is crying out of pain. But when they asked him, he gave a completely different answer. He said that you people who are around me are having such grief in you about my illness that your grief, your sorrow is affecting my body. The body is so sensitive that any kind of psychological atmosphere can easily affect it. And by grieving, you are creating a psychological atmosphere of grief and sorrow that is affecting the body, and therefore the body is crying. So he was not crying out of pain. So, which means that, say, even in tradition they say that you have to maintain absolute peace when you are visiting a sick person or a person on the deathbed. You have to be absolutely peaceful. Otherwise, you are going to create trouble for him. Yeah, please.
Is it necessary to understand self-suffering is only the way?
You mean to say whether it is possible to understand without suffering, or suffering is the only way to understand oneself, right? So, Krishnamurti used to say that even with the suffering, we are not able to understand. So, forget about understanding without suffering, in the sense that, of course, in order to understand, you don't have to suffer. But if suffering is the only way, then in spite of suffering, we still don't understand. So then what is it that is preventing us to understand ourselves? Because when we suffer, our focus is how to escape that suffering, how to come out of that. We never inquire, let me go into the nature of this suffering. Why do I suffer? What is suffering? What causes it? And so on. All that we don't do, but we are mostly interested in getting rid of it or escaping from it, and we are looking for ways and means to do that. And so naturally the suffering continues and we keep on running away from it, looking for escapes and looking for getting rid of it and so on. So probably suffering is not required if one is of inquiring type, one is in a learning mode, one is questioning everything that is happening in one's life, and one acts on the basis of his own understanding, then I think suffering is not required at all. But tradition says that suffering is part of life, you can't escape it. All that you can do is somehow adjust yourself to that suffering and continue to live your life. While Krishnamurti says that it is possible to completely end suffering. You are not born to suffer. You have created that suffering for yourself, and therefore you can also end it. And if you can end suffering, then only there are higher possibilities. In fact, he says that where there is suffering, there is no love. The love is possible only when you completely end the suffering. So he has a very clear stand as far as suffering is concerned. Suffering is not the inevitable, natural part of your life. Suffering is not natural, it is rather unnatural. And therefore, it is possible to end it completely. And suffering, there can be various causes, various reasons, why suffering happens. One of the commonest reason is that because you still don't understand things. So when you interact with the environment, right, because you don't understand the environment, your interaction is not able to meet the environment, and therefore you generate consequences which are not acceptable to you. And those unacceptable consequences, when they create events in your life or situations, then you suffer in that.
Isn't it selfishness?
Yeah, selfishness means selfishness is the criterion to decide what is acceptable to you and what is not acceptable to you.
Sir, how is Krishnaji as a mystic? Can you tell us?
I think you have to first tell me what is a mystic, then I will tell you.
So you talked about Pahad. Before that he was in the UK, London. During the
Yes.
when he was
Yeah, during the First World War. During the First World War.
First World War. And that castle where they were staying, all these 7 layers experiment, whatever they did, it's a lot of, you didn't disclose anything.
No, because all those events you can read in his biography. And during First World War, he was actually in France, not in UK, not in Ohio. During the First World War. During the Second World War, he was at Ohio.
I'm asking before 1940.
During First World War, he wanted to participate or do some work during the First World War. And he was not allowed to do that. They said that, no, it's not for you to participate in any way during the First World War. But he was so intense about his demand. Then finally it was allowed that he can do the nursing of the wounded soldiers during the First World War. So he was working in some hospital, nursing the wounded persons in the First World War. So that was all that was allowed for him, not taking gun and fighting there or doing any other thing.
Red Cross was at one time.
Yeah.
Red Cross or something like that.
I don't know whether Red Cross was there at that time, but the nursing of the wounded, that is what he did.
So looking broadly at his selection as a world teacher and his grooming,
Yes.
and then this process,
Yes.
and his maturing as a teacher. If all this is planned by the masters, he's going away from them. Is that also planned or?
Yeah, I mean, see here, all these things, they happened. Not that they were all planned by masters in that sense. But there is some natural sequence. So there are various factors. One factor is what the world teacher wants to do, and whatever he wants to do to make it possible, what needs to be done. So that has to be done with Krishnamurti. The other factor is his own karma, whatever he was born with. Now, what kind of role that karma is going to play here? What kind of difficulties it can create, and all those things. So that factor. And the preparation of his body for whatever, or to prepare it so that it becomes usable by the world teacher. So all these factors together, they worked, and the role of the masters was just to see to it that the things they move more or less in a right direction, so that whatever they wanted is possible through that. Now, it was not the masters who made these things happen. They only supported, they only saw to it that whatever is to happen, it happens in a right way, and no damage or no hindrance is created to the function of the world teacher. But it was the world teacher who was responsible for all these happenings. And in fact, when Krishnamurti was being prepared for this role, so there was a very strict instruction from the world teacher saying that groom this boy physically, make his body healthy, work on the habits and see to it that body doesn't have any wrong kind of habits. And also they were told that not to condition his mind along any line of philosophy. So which means that he was not taught theosophy even. He was not taught theosophy, he was not taught any scriptures, he was not taught any religion, he was not taught anything which would condition his mind or which will influence his thought in any particular way. All that was taught to him was the factual knowledge. For example, mathematics or languages like Sanskrit or English. Right? English was more emphasized because he was going to talk in English. So a lot of care and time was spent in grooming him into English language, so that he could speak that language properly. Some Sanskrit was also taught, mathematics was also taught. And Krishnamurti had a very good mechanical ability also. In fact, in his biography is mentioned, as a child, he once opened the watch of his father, opened it completely, separated all the parts, and then put together all those parts so that the watch becomes functional again. Now, this is, I think, a considerable ability, because I don't think even we can put back all the parts of the watch and make it function again. So he had that ability. So he was, it was told that not to condition his mind along any particular line. In fact, the instruction was, don't touch his mind. Leave it alone. The world teacher will take care of it. You take care of only the body.
Was given ethics and that.
No ethics, nothing.
But he wrote that book.
Which one?
At the Feet of the Master.
No, that was, all this training is after At the Feet of the Master. At the Feet of the Master was the book through which he was introduced to the world as Krishnamurti, in
Then
whom...
was already conditioned.
No, I don't think so. In fact, later on, when Krishnamurti was asked, he said that the boy was not conditioned at all. In fact, whatever events happened around him, they did not condition him in any way. His mind was unaffected by any of those things.
And his walking out clearly shows that he is not conditioned.
Yeah.
So can we say in that sense that when he is not at all conditioned or his
Yes.
mind was
Yes.
not touched
Yes.
at all, the teaching has come from the source itself or the word?
Yeah, from the source itself. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
The world teacher.
Yeah.
What's the world teacher with your consciousness?
What is world teacher's consciousness? Yeah. So, we say ordinary human beings. What is our consciousness, right? And then you, by your right living and all this thing, then you become the first initiate. Then what is your consciousness? Then second initiate, then third, then fourth and fifth. When you become the fifth initiate, you are already a master, and you are free from this cycle of birth and death. You are not required to take any birth, because there is nothing to be worked out in you. Everything has been worked out. So the birth in the physical body is not necessary. So such masters, they are called as Jivan Muktas, or liberated souls. They are the truly liberated souls. Or the initiation itself is called as Ashek. Like fourth initiation is Arhat, the fifth is Ashek. Now the initiations don't stop there. There is sixth, then there is seventh. So the world teacher is the seventh initiation. And the difference in the consciousness. So with some comparison, it was explained what is the difference between this consciousness. So you have a pet in your house. Now what is the difference between your consciousness and the consciousness of that pet? Right? There is vast difference. You may appreciate a beautiful sunset. For the pet, it means nothing. The kind of consciousness a human being has and the kind of consciousness a cat or a dog may have, if you compare, you can see what vast difference is that, right? Now, if you compare the consciousness of a Jivan Mukta with our consciousness, then the difference is 10 times the difference between you and your pet. So the difference between the pet and my consciousness, whatever is the difference, 10 times of that or even more is the difference between my consciousness and the consciousness of a Jivan Mukta. So how should the Jivan Mukta treat us? How do we treat our pet?
So Anibesant and CW, they were also on the same plane?
Who?
Anibesant and CW.
Yeah, both of them had reached Arhat stage. Both of them. Yes.
Unless they reach there, they cannot initiate.
No. Now let me continue further because I have not completed my previous this thing. Because you have asked about the consciousness of the world teacher, right? Now, the consciousness of the world teacher. Now, Jivan Muktas, you have understood how much is the difference. Now, these Jivan Muktas, they consider themselves as the dust of the feet of the world teacher. So, now you can imagine where the world teacher stands. Right? So, there is such a vast difference. I mean, for all practical purposes, the world teacher is like Ishvara, like omniscient, omnipotent, and nothing can be hidden from him. He has all the powers and everything. And then there are beings even higher than the world teacher. So there is no end. So now what else you wanted to say about the?
The consciousness levels of Dr. Anibesant.
Yeah, both of them had reached the Arhat level. That's the fourth initiation they had taken. And fifth initiation, at least CWL said that he will take it in his next incarnation. He will take the fifth initiation.
Puturi and Maurya,
They are the sixth initiation.
so sixth means they are Jivan Muktas.
Yeah, more than Jivan Mukta.
So where is Krishnamurti standing also?
Krishnamurti was Arhat. Arhat, yeah. Fourth. Yeah. That's what CWL said, no?
Rebirth again.
Yeah.
So he is there now.
No, not now. Rebirth is not that quickly.
Takes time.
1200 years. You have to wait. So Krishnamurti said, no, that for several hundred years there will not be such body in which that kind of intelligence can operate.
In some way he is working, sir.
Of course, he is very much there. Krishnamurti is very much there. Body is dead, not the being. I mean, in that way, nobody is dead. Everybody is existing. All your ancestors, everybody is existing, right? But in the different lokas, only they are not there in their physical bodies. That's all.
They are helping us to evolve.
Yeah, may not. I mean, they may be just living their life. It's only the initiates and the masters and that group. They are helping us to grow or to unfold and so on. Others, they are just living their life in those lokas, just as we are living our life in the physical world. So there are people who are living their life in the astral world. So in any way, after death, all of us are going to end up in the astral world. And how are we preparing ourselves to live in that world?
Krishna took help of many masters.
Yeah.
But the contradiction statement is he has to stand alone.
Yes.
So how can we see this one? He took help from many masters in our
Yeah, I mean, no, masters helped him, right? So it's just like you are building a building, and you need the scaffolding, right, to support. And you have the scaffolding, with the help of scaffolding, you construct that building and all these things. Then once the building is complete, do you keep the scaffolding or you remove it?
Sir, as you say this,
Yes.
yesterday there was a news from NASA,
Yeah,
a telescopic thing they have found out
yeah,
in a place of dark,
yeah,
26 million
yeah.
stars. Are
Stars,
visible.
okay.
There is a alien life is there,
Yeah,
approximately 10.5 light years.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They have
yeah,
measured.
yeah, yeah,
It is in that very scientific
Yeah.
field that it is.
yeah, yeah,
So now what you say,
yeah,
the Purana,
Yeah.
especially in Hinduism,
Yeah.
the Garuda Purana is
yeah. The Garuda Purana, the
I
description.
don't know, is it going to become something in the future reality?
No, 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 no. See, the description given in Garuda Purana is very extreme
Yeah.
and unrealistic. Because they have said, yeah, the rivers of blood. You have to pass through the rivers of blood and rivers of this and that. Now there is no river of blood, neither in the physical.
It is happening now.
No, no, happening in the sense when you go in war, kill so many human beings, right? You create that river of blood and then you say that it's already given in the Garuda Purana as existing. Now that is not the logical sense.
No, I am not.
If you say that it is existing already, it must be there. Not because I have created it and then Garuda Purana has saying this. So Garuda Purana description is that a dead person, what all the things he has to go through before he arrives either at Yamaloka or Swargaloka and all these things. But there is no such thing.
Even in Christian scriptures, that is there, Rubika.
Yeah, yeah. See, all those scriptures are there, everything is there. One has to have a common sense to find out what is authentic, what is likely to be true, and what is just an imagination. Right? And I think the theosophy is the correct approach for this. And nowhere it is mentioned that there are rivers of blood. In fact, Garuda Purana even says that there are rivers of the pus, then there are rivers of the excreta through which all the human beings have to pass through. So I think all that description is created by some persons having vested interest. So they will frighten human beings and then they will ask them, no, then you have to do this ritual, this much expenses, that much expenses, you do this, give bhojan to so many brahmanas and all those things. And so it's all done for that. There is no such thing. Just as in Western world, also in Christianity, they frighten people and make them part with their money. So here also in Hinduism, in this way, they are frightening people, but there is no such thing.
But your
Absolutely.
reincarnation is also like that.
Pardon?
All are we are getting conditions.
Reincarnation.
Which, oh, you want to say that, how do you know that reincarnation is true and whatever is given in Garuda Purana is not true, right? So both are, yeah. So, okay, so if it is all imagination, leave it. Why fight over it?
Also is not there then.
Yeah, not there, assume it, live your life as if there is no reincarnation. You are perfectly free to do that. In
We are
fact,
talking about the facts here.
no. We are talking about the facts means, wait. No, we have made it very clear that whatever we are saying is a factual narration of whatever that has happened. Now, why are we saying it factual? Because it's there in the records, right? Now, is it that somebody's imagination that Krishnamurti was found? Was it an imagination or was he actually found? Right? When he was being prepared for this role, was he being actually prepared or it is somebody's imagination? When he underwent process, was it an imagination or did it actually happen? You see, there is some such thing as a common sense. And if there are evidences taking up those evidences, right, one can ascertain that yes, this is more likely to be like this. We are not saying that it is like this, because we are not in that position, we are not able to verify it. All that we can say is that yes, looks authentic, looks possible, and so we just take it in that way. And another way is that if it is factual, in what way it becomes applicable in my life. And when I apply it, then through the application I may come to know whether it works or it doesn't work. And if it works, then it is more likely to be true. If it doesn't work, maybe it is just imagination, it doesn't hold much. So there are ways and means. I mean, we don't want to take any sides or any such thing. I mean, it's just a common sense that we are not saying that all Puranas are false. I am only talking about particularly the Garuda Purana, because I have read that, because people said that when somebody is dying, you should read Garuda Purana to that person. So if he hears all these things, he will be frightened. He will be so frightened and he will be afraid to die. Because after death, such things are going to happen to him. He will be afraid to die.
It's a text written by Brahmins, and I was still interested in.
Yeah, I mean the priests, they have. Venu, go ahead. Yeah, Venu wants to ask something, sir.
I just wanted a question in connection with the teaching themselves.
Yeah.
So, the last session you explained about at the feet of the master.
Yes.
And today you said they were Krishnaji talked about self-help groups.
Yes.
So, how did the teachings progress? I haven't read that book,
Yeah.
but any insights on how the teachings progress from
Yeah, I mean, we can say that in At the Feet of the Master, you know what you are supposed to do. And in these later books like Kingdom of Happiness and all those things, it explains how you can do that, how to go about it, and what is lacking. So one of the factors which is being constantly mentioned in that book, which is lacking in most of us, is the intensity of interest. So there Krishnaji is always telling those self-preparation group members that you are not intense enough. You are not putting yourself completely into it. And that is why you are not seeing much change, much effect in you. So these people, they kept on saying, no, we are giving everything, we are interested, all this thing. But he said that no, you are not intense enough. So the kind of intensity he was expecting, he was not seeing in them. And without such intensity, it's very difficult to achieve anything. And that is also quite obvious in the sense that you have a lukewarm interest in something, then what will be your approach to that? And when you are intensely interested in something, then what kind of approach you will have towards it? So it's the same. I mean, if you have that burning interest about his teaching, then how will you go about it? And when you have a casual interest, then how do you go about it? So the difference is obvious. Yeah.
Krishnamurti says a famous statement, your physical body, your physical exercise morning.
Yeah.
And again he says that living and dying every day, when you are waking up, you have to be fresh and dynamic in a sense. So why he said that one says living and dying? In what sense he said?
Yes.
Again, he says reincarnation or next birth is not much important. How you live, how stay in a state of living and dying at this moment. I died at this moment. How I have to take this one? I am to take this.
Yeah. I mean, we have to then understand what death, what Krishnamurti means by death. So, the kind of death we understand is the death of the physical body. The body dies, right? And the life in the physical world is over. So that is the death which we know. Now, what Krishnamurti says is, even when the physical body dies, the content of consciousness continues. Because we are the content of our consciousness. That means we are not just the body, but more than the body, we are the content of consciousness. That means through this body, by way of living my life, what have I gathered? I have gathered a lot. The experience, knowledge, sensations, all kinds of things I have gathered. And that is what makes up my consciousness. That is what is my identity. Body is one factor of identity, but within that body, whatever I have gathered, that is my real identity. Now, what he says is that even if the physical body dies, that identity continues. Because that identity, which is actually my consciousness, it is part of the totality of human consciousness. And therefore, it continues as part of the totality of human consciousness, even when the physical body has died. And it continues with its identity. It's not that it merges with the rest of the consciousness. It is, many people compare it with a drop of water meeting the sea and therefore disappearing in the sea. So it's not that. The content of consciousness continues with its identity. That means, that means you don't lose anything except the body. You have lost the body, but all the rest you are still holding on to, and with that you are living your life in the next world, right? Now, just let us go a little further. Then there may be what is called as the astral death. So then that content shifts further to the mental body. There again you live. And when the mental death, then that shifts to the next level. Now, next level you are not fully conscious. So, to whatever extent you are able to be conscious, up to that you live. Beyond that, when you try to move, you start becoming unconscious, because you are not yet capable of being conscious at those higher levels. So, when you try to reach those higher levels, you start becoming unconscious. And when you are unconscious, you can remain in that unconscious state indefinitely. You can live there for ages. But the nature doesn't want you to remain in unconscious state for ages. So what happens is that in order to be conscious again, you have to descend, you have to come back. So from that level, you come back to the mental, then the mental matter gets gathered around you, then you come back to astral, the astral matter gets gathered, and from the astral, you are born as a baby in some family where you get the physical body. So now you have a new mental, astral and physical matter, and you are born as a new human being. But are you really a new human being? You are actually not a new human being, because you are carrying the same content of consciousness with which you had left your body. That same content you are carrying in this new body also. So it is like the same old wine, only in a new bottle. But the wine is the same. And therefore, you are the same human being as before. So in the new body, you will have the same quarrels, the same jealousies, the same problems, the same kind of people you will come in contact, you will create the same problems. So your life more or less will continue as it was in the previous life. So has the death and reincarnation changed anything for you? It hasn't. And wait, let me complete the point. Like that, you may keep on taking more and more incarnations, and yet you remain the same. So, what is the significance of death then? If death is not changing you, is not making any difference in you, then what is the significance of that death? It only means that you are shifting yourself from an old home to a new home, but carrying the same belongings, same things, and no difference, right? And therefore, Krishnaji says that the death and reincarnation which you talk about is not of much importance. They cannot change a human being. They cannot bring about that radical change which he calls as mutation. And therefore, why bother about it? But is there a way of bringing about this change, this mutation? Now, he says that unless you end all that psychological content, you cannot bring out such a radical change. Because the psychological content, if you don't end, it will continue and it will continue to bring you back in the same way and without any change. So if you want to really change, you have to end this psychological content. Now the ending of this psychological content he is calling as psychological death. Why he calls death? Because death is the full and final stop, not reversible. So which means that when you end this psychological content and when it is a psychological death, that means it is the full and final ending of this psychological content. You cannot revert back to it. It is finished. And only through this psychological death, only through this psychological death, the birth of a new human being is possible. Otherwise, he is the same old human being. And therefore, he says that you don't have to wait till the death of the physical body in order to die psychologically. Because death of the physical body is not going to create psychological death. The psychological content continues. So while you are still alive in the physical body, in a full healthy state, is it possible to die psychologically? Is it possible to completely end the psychological content? And that is the psychological death. And that will bring about the change, the mutation that he talks about. And when that happens, then you are actually born again. Then you are a new human being. You are no longer the old human being. And so he says that, is it possible to reincarnate now and not in next life, not after the physical death, but reincarnate now while still in this physical body? So that is how he puts the psychological death and reincarnation. And when you look at it, that is so. The psychological death is far more important than the physical death.
He calls that process.
Pardon?
He calls that process dying and living.
Yeah, so that is the psychological death, right? But then, do you have to wait till you are able to end all the psychological content? And when will it end? You don't know. How long you are going to take? You don't know, right? But then he talks about a little smaller death, smaller death in the sense that whatever you are doing, after doing it, can you end it there only and not carry on with it, give it a continuity? You experience something, experience it with your full intensity, with your full resources, with whatever you want to experience. But once you have experienced it, is it possible to finish with it so that you don't carry anything from that experience? It is completely over, finished, nothing to do. If you are able to do that, then that is the death. And because things are happening in your life at every moment, then every moment, whatever happens, you live through it completely. And when you live through it completely, it is finished. So then that is the death of that thing. So that is living from moment to moment, or dying from moment to moment. Yeah.
Mutation of the same cells.
Yeah, I mean, if one lives like that, then mutation is possible. Because every time you end something completely, that affects the brain, that affects the brain cells. And when sufficient number of brain cells are affected, then there will be mutation.
So there is equivalent to working of karma.
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that also. Why not? Karma means just the accumulated effects of your past actions. That's all. And you can't escape them, you have to go through them.
So there's never, you never get out of the cycle of birth and death, but you keep coming back and going back.
Yeah, as long as you have unfolded your potential to the level where you don't need to come back in the physical body. Like say Jivan Mukta. Now they have unfolded their complete potential as a human being. Now there is nothing further to be unfolded by living in a human body. That means through human body, whatever was achievable, all that they have already done. So now coming back to the human body is just like repeating. And why should they repeat?
So then you live the potential of something else.
Yeah. Then actually they say that once you have completed the human evolution, then you have entered the divine evolution. Then you are no longer a human being, but you are a divinity.
But you always exist.
Yeah. The divine evolution, then there are further, I mean, there is no end to this. You cannot say that now there is nothing further.
Well, put in this way, sir, never created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah, energy, the life, I mean, I would say life, something which is living, right? So it is living. Living is a sthai bhav, which means that a quality which sustains itself. A living quality can never be dead, right? That means there is no such thing as death. The death is only for the forms. When that living quality manifests in some form, say through this physical body or through mental body or through any form, then that form has the death, not the living quality, not the life. If life has death, then it is self-contradictory. Life cannot die. If it dies, then there is no such thing as living. So, in that sense, then you say that there is only living, there is nothing else. Living is the existence, is that. So, there is only that, there is nothing else. Yeah, it is 1:15. Let us Chinnaya have last question. Yeah.
The question is in lighter ways.
Yeah.
You must answer it with simple.
Okay.
This cycle of life and death, what I understand is, there is a remote chance of getting this wife in this janma. Suppose I am married, I am married.
Yes.
Getting this wife again in some other janma after 500 years. There is a remote possibility.
Why remote? There is real possibility. There is real possibility. You see, about this, I mean, whatever the things the investigators, I mean, CWL investigated all the past lives of Krishnamurti and all those things. So based on that, if you are born as a man in this life, not necessarily that in the next life you will be born as a man only. You may be born as a woman. So who is your wife in this life could be your husband in next life. Yes. Then you will have to make the full payment. Not only that, the relations they change. I mean, whosoever is your son in this life could be your brother or could be your father, could be your friend. I mean, there are no fixed relationships in this sense. But the relationship in terms of your actual humanness, you know, like say they say that the relationship of friendship, right? Now that is eternal, that remains. There is no change in that, the relationship of friendship. But any other relationship is changeable. I mean, particularly the blood-based relationships, they are changeable. Yeah, completely changeable.
It's limited to humans or maybe it is extended to animals also.
No, animals, not so much to animals. But there are other evolutions other than human evolution. And we have no clue to that. And right now there is no contact, not much contact with these two different evolutions. Yeah, you wanted to ask something?
So whatever we are discussing, like you made a point about the incarnation, this life. So there is something feeling inside that we are already assuming that the entity which is life or living is already existing inside the body, right? And then it leaves this body, gets to other, leaves it, gets to other, and this is how the journey moves, right?
No, it's not that the entity is already living in the body. The fact is, I am that entity. See, why do you separate that entity from yourself? This body, I am living in this body, right? So I am that. Is this an assumption that I am living in this body?
Things could be other way around also.
Oh, means body is living in me, something like that.
Maybe. How do you see the veracity of this?
Yeah, see the velocity of.
The truthfulness of this fact. How do you?
Yeah. So how do you go about it? Am I this living body, or there is something else?
Perhaps the body is a content of the.
No, not perhaps, sir. When a pin pricks into my body, right? Do I say that it's the body which is being pricked? I have nothing to do with it. When body feels hunger, you don't say that it's the matter of the body. I have nothing to do with it. Let the body find food or whatever it wants to do. So I think let us not get to the ridiculous level. I mean, Krishnaji has talked about doubt. He said you must doubt. But if you keep on doubting everything, then it just leads you to absurdity, right? So you have to doubt with diligence. You have to doubt where it is necessary to doubt. But simply for the sake of doubt, you keep on doubting everything. It doesn't make any sense.
Not that, actually in our spirituality, what we learn, I am not the body, I am not the mind.
Yes.
So on and so forth.
No, but to say that, to say that I am not the body, you must have discovered an existence which is independent of the body. Have you discovered that? You have not discovered. So then you are your body. When you discover that you can still exist without the body, then you can say that I am not the body. And some people, they do have out of the body experience. They feel that they are outside their body and they can see their body from outside. They can move around. They can say that I am not the body. We can't say. There are ways and means to verify. I mean, if one is interested in that way, one can develop those things. But overall, if you see, they are not worth. What is worth is what Krishnamurti is pointing out. Because if you are able to live your life as per that, you don't have to work for all these things. They will come naturally to you in a safe way, without any danger. And therefore, the best way is to live them and focus on what he has been pointing out.
You have talked about intensity of knowing.
What is talk?
Intensity.
Oh, intensity, yes, intensity, yes.
When intensity comes into play, there is some element of faith or something.
Yeah, I mean, not faith, but somehow based on your own logical and rational understanding, you come to some kind of conviction. That means you are convinced that yes, it is like that. And then maybe, yes, that can trigger an interest. Or, for example, you assume something. Now, based on that assumption, you start working. And during that working, if you see the results which are based on that assumption, you can see the actual results, which strengthens your assumption, then that gives you some kind of encouragement to explore further. But if you don't see anything, then you don't get interested. Then slowly you will start losing interest. Then you will say, oh, I am not finding anything in this. And so you start thinking that maybe there is nothing in this, and you discard it. But when you start seeing some results, then that certainly gives you encouragement to explore further, to find out further. So it goes that way. Namaskar, sir. So we'll stop at that, and tomorrow we'll meet again. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.